Howdy partners, welcome back to the show. This is Rob from Rob's Game Group. Hope you're all doing good out there. This is another video in the series that I'm doing on the basics of playing Palladium Fantasy role-playing, 2nd edition, which is a great old-school role-playing game. However, it is it's aged, and a lot of new players may find it intimidating. So the purpose of these videos is to break down the key concepts of what you need to play the game, make it easier to understand, and easier to jump into a game and get started playing. It's also being used by me I'm building these cheat sheets, laminated cheat sheets that I'm using to kind of put together a starter set with pre-gen characters, the rules broken down real easily, pre-gen adventure, to lay everything out, let people play the game, see if they like it, before moving into things like character creation, which again, is not hard. I'm not going to lie, it's Palladium, so it is time consuming, but it's not hard. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about one of the three key concepts to fantasy role-playing, and that is skill use. Because, as I've said in other videos, one of the key factors I find when people are trying to, or being exposed to a new fantasy role-playing game, is how does combat work, how does skills work, how does magic work. If you can understand those, you can pretty much jump into any fantasy role-playing game and get started. So in this video, we're going to be talking about skills and how they work. Before we get started, if you enjoy these videos or the other videos that I do, unboxings, reviews, game theory, rambling for 20 to 30 minutes, then please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button, and most definitely give it a thumbs up, because it helps circulate the videos, and that's why I'm doing this, to reach more people. Excuse me. Also, if you would like to interact more with me or with my players, you can find us on Facebook at Rob's Game Group, all one word. Join us there. You can email me questions or comments or ideas for shows, things you'd like to see, and I will take all of that into consideration when I'm planning out what videos to do. Alright, so let's get started. Again, these rules that I'm going over are broken down to make it easier for you to understand when you are getting into Palladium Fantasy role-playing. And I am using the 2nd edition book. And yes, there are lots of other supplement books out there, just like they do for riffs and other stuff. But for the purpose of these videos, we're just using the core book. So, I have a 2-panel thing here, cheat sheet that I made, that is, the first panel really does, explains all of the skill stuff. The second panel I have on here explains in most games it's a skill, but it doesn't have to be. It could just be an ability, which is kind of what it is in this. But it was missing, and it's missing from several of their games. And I don't know why. We have found years ago that it was missing. They apparently realized it was missing from games and put it in one of the indexes in the Ultimate Rifts book, and I think Dead Rain. So I just kind of took the basics of that and added it, a cheat sheet that I could use it in Palladium here, and that is in Palladium Fantasy, and that is notice checks. Like, I don't know how they ran this game for so long without using notice checks. Pretty much every role-playing game uses some type of notice, perception, spot hidden, something to see what characters find. And it's just missing from most of these games. And they kind of came up with a real simple system and tossed it in a couple of games. And you can find this online. pretty easily, and or if you have one of those other books, you can find it in there. And I just, like I said, I made a note card and added it to my cheat sheet here that I would have behind the screen when I'm running the games, because you always want to know whether characters see something or not. So notice checks, and it's very simple. A notice check, you just have your players roll a d20, and they can either roll and tell you what they got, and you look at the difficulties to determine what they actually saw, or you could set a difficulty, either easy, moderate, challenging, difficult, or masterful, and that would determine what they need to roll in order to see it. Easy being things like loud noises and bright lights. Did they notice them? Moderate would be normal noise or finding people in a well-lit area. Challenging, one noise in a noisy area or finding things in poor lighting. Difficult could be like a very minor noise or finding things in the dark. And then masterful could be finding something that is well concealed or finding invisible things. So when they roll this d20 to get in to achieve an easy, they need a 4 or higher. A moderate is an 8 or higher. Challenging is a 14 or higher. Difficult is a 17 or higher, and masterful is a 19 or higher. Because there's no skill in Palladium that directly ties to this, they would just need to make a note on their sheet that they do gain a bonus to the roll, and the bonus is from their mental endurance, save versus insanity bonus, or it's the same as the mental endurance, save versus insanity bonus from page 16, which is your bonus chart in the beginning of the book. Why they use the 1 versus insanity, I don't know. Maybe Kevin just liked that chart, that specific bonus line. But that's what they use. So if you have a bonus of +3 to save versus insanity, then you also have a +3 to notice checks. And that's all there is to it. Notice checks are just that simple. So let's move on to the skills that they do have in the game. Palladium Fantasy skills. Skills in the Palladium Fantasy RPG are a percentile system, for the most part. We'll touch on that in a few minutes. I'm going to refer a lot to something called OCCs in this video. If you're new to Palladium and you don't know what that means, an OCC stands for Occupational Character Class. It's essentially your class, like D&D, you have fighters and warlocks and wizards. Same thing here. You have an OCC, which is your occupational character class. Now, they do have things in other books that range out from that with RCCs, racial character classes and things, but we're just looking at the base game here. So OCC is going to come up a lot. Each OCC will list 3 groups of skills. It'll list your OCC skills, your OCC related skills, and secondary skills. So when you're making your character, you can list out, because you get them all, you get all the OCC skills, you get to pick some of the OCC related skills, and then finally you get to choose very few secondary skills. And they don't come from a list, they are more of just secondary interest that you might have. Each skill in the book is going to give a description of what the skill is, what it does, and what percentage the base skill starts at, and how much of a percentage it goes up per level. So let's look at an example of this. Let's say we're building a ranger, and we're going to look at animal husbandry, which is page 53. So we go to page 53, animal husbandry. This area of study provides the character with a knowledge of the care, feeding, breeding, reproduction, treatment, and behavior of domestic animals. This includes cattle, sheep, goats, horses, ducks, chickens, and similar creatures. See horsemanship for breeding horses. The percentile number indicates the degree of knowledge and skill one has about animals and their care. Reduce the skill ability by half when caring for captive or injured wild animals. And then the skill ends with the base skill, which is 35%, plus 5% per level of experience. So when you're listing this particular skill, let's say we're doing a ranger, you look at the ranger, and the ranger, it's one of his OCC skills, so he gets animal husbandry and the associated bonus from being a ranger, which on the ranger page, which I can flip to real quick. So we go to the ranger, we look, and his OCC skill, first skill, is animal husbandry, and it says plus 10%. So we go back over here before, and it's always good to jot all of this down on some notebook paper before you transfer everything to your character sheet, because you're going to be adding a lot of stuff as you go. So the ranger gets plus 10 to this. So that means his base skill, which normally would start at a 35, starts at 45%. And then every time he gains a level, he adds 5% to it. But if he has a high IQ, he might also get a one-time bonus, because that's what that plus 10% is for being a ranger. It's a one-time bonus at character creation. He might also get a one-time bonus depending on how high his IQ is. And that is on page 16, where you have your attribute bonus chart. And IQ, let's say he has a 19 IQ. IQ adds to all skills. This is a one-time bonus. The IQ bonus for a 19 is plus 5%. So, to finish out animal husbandry, let's go right back over here. So it starts at 35. He gets plus 5 from his IQ of 19, and that's just arbitrary. I'm just guessing. I mean, it's based on whatever score you actually have. But let's say he has a 19, so he gets plus 5 from that, which brings him to 35. I'm sorry, brings him to 40. Started at 35, plus 5 for the 19, brings him to 40. Plus 10 for being a ranger brings him to 50. So he already starts the game at level 1 with a 50% chance of succeeding at animal husbandry. So, when you do a percentile skill, you roll the 2 percentile dice, and you want to get your skill rating or less, which is why, to indicate it getting better, it goes up by a small percentage every level. So he would start at 50%, and then at level 2 he would go to 55%. At level 3 it would go to 60%. It can never go all the way to 100. I think it stops at 98%. But that's basically how setting up a skill works. So let's go back over that. Each OCC will list 3 groups of skills: your OCC skills, your OCC related skills, and some secondary skills. You get all of the OCC skills and their bonuses. You pick some of the OCC related skills, and then you get to choose a few secondary skills. Each skill gives a description, which we just looked at with animal husbandry, and the base percentage that it starts at, and how much percentage it goes up per level. At character creation, you get a bonus to the base skill of all skills if you have a high IQ. You also get a one-time bonus to OCC and OCC related skills as listed in your OCC, but not secondary skills. Those are just whatever the base is. These bonuses only apply during character creation. Then, whenever you want to use that skill, you just make a percentile roll, and you want your score or less to succeed. Now, there are a few skills in the game that don't work on the percentile system. For instance, weapon proficiencies. They don't work on the percentile system. And then there are other ones like sniper that don't. Some of these other skills, weapon proficiencies, and some of the other ones, work a little bit differently. When you choose one of them, they simply give you a bonus to use that type of weapon. First of all, they make you proficient in it. Secondly, they give you a bonus either to strike or parry, maybe both, but strike, parry, etc. And you just add that into your total strike bonus or your parry bonus. And that, my friends, is all there is to skills. There's lots and lots of skills. They put out lots and lots of skills in supplement books, but they all pretty much work the same. And they're very, very simple. So when you're making a character, I hope that this video becomes useful. Maybe you go back, watch it again. I hope that I explained everything well. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Or you can join us on Facebook and you can message me there and ask me stuff. But I hope that explains skills to you, because they're not hard. They're like everything else in this game. It's a lot of text because they put a lot into their books. But it's not overly complicated. It's fairly simple how it works. So again, I hope you found something in here useful, something that you can take away from the video. And until next week, good gaming and good luck.